Okay. All right. So this is David Henning. Gonna do the vlog on some of the Evo and Franco reading, the aft of the book, and then also on some of the uh, other questions that were brought up. So just gonna jump right into it. Um, with the first one, let's just make sure I got this right here. Um, yes, yeah. So yeah, what were they trying to do? What were they trying to say when they were stealing the art from hell.com? Um, they were trying to demonstrate how no one can't, oh, no one should um, own art, and that art is it's best um, when it's free, when it's easily accessible by everybody. In most cases, art is it's best for the art, the media, the actual work itself to be appreciated by as many as it could be. Although that's not always true for the creator of the artwork. So sometimes the creator of the art will actually hurt his or her own creation by trying to keep it to themselves. And Evo and Franco believe that that is a mistake, and they try to make that point. Then right on to the next one, hacktivism, and why that is not what Evo and Franco were doing. Uh, that they the differences can kind of be a little difficult to see to an outsider, but if you really try to understand what Evo and Franco were really about, it's actually pretty simple. Hacktivism is a little more, uh, I guess, it's a little more. I don't know exactly the word. It's aimed at hurting someone, and like in the one case, it was aimed at hurting Disney Corp. And the things that Evo and Franco are doing aren't exactly hacktivism because they are less about hurting one person. They're more about helping everyone. That's not that one person. They're really about not about hurting somebody for the sake of hurting them, therefore hurting them for the sake of proving a point that in the big picture is should be heard, a point that should be made, and so it helps everyone. So that's I think that's the difference. That's what I interpret it as. The Nike swoosh thing, the where they made that giant Nike swoosh. I think it was very powerful. I think it was looking back on it, it was something that they should have done. And I think I understand there's a lot of controversy behind it, of course, but I still believe that it was good. It was important to bring up because it showed really, I think it showed a lot of the sort of how powerful corporations are and how they could almost how much they influence culture and how they could almost destroy it entirely and how they how in theory how terrible it would be if Nike actually did something like that to a historical landmark and how it's almost not even that unbelievable because I mean like they brought up how like there was a lot of controversy but at the same time it was almost like people were just like what are you going to do and it's kind of like that's the worst part about it is that it's almost so it's terrible but it's almost like completely real like that's not really that much of an exaggeration and I think that doing that what they did really sort of brings your eye to that and shows you like oh no that like that isn't like what are we gonna do like that can't just happen so I think it's very powerful but it was much less of course when I first went over it in its context it was difficult to see it as being offensive because it's an art class this book I kind of knew what I was going but of course trying to look at it in a different light, trying to think about it. Of course, it'd be terrible. It'd be really offensive. Um, but then, yeah, and to answer the question, it was much less offensive to realize it was art. It was not offensive at all. I think it was a good thing. It was like a good point to be brought up. So yes, it was much less offensive when you find out it's art. As for the Second Life avatars, I think this is actually a good question because I think that Second Life avatars are more like a portrait. Um, they're like a portrait. And in fact, they're more like a portrait than a portrait itself. Because if you actually put your like if you're not just making an avatar just to be in Second Life, if you're actually focusing on your avatar, if you actually want to make a point in your avatar, if you want to say something about yourself, or you just want to, if almost no matter what you try, no matter what you do in your avatar, you're saying something about yourself. Even if you give very little effort into it, that's might be saying something about you. Or if you do it just to be funny, that might be saying something about you. So I think that an avatar actually tells you more about a person than actually just seeing that person's face. I believe, yeah. So it shows the inner you more. And of course, it's not like a portrait because it's not actually showing your face. It's not showing. Well, I guess no, I can't really, but it could be close, but it can't actually show you. So it's not actually a portrait. And then the next question. Oh, the synthetic performances. Let me just see that question. Ugh. They're sort of. It's difficult to explain, but they're basically trying to make us think about how we act in society and we might act how we might act without society. I think that they're trying to say like we wouldn't the way that people reacted who didn't know about the way people reacted who were unaware of what was going on were would have been different. It's we, we wouldn't have it. Society sort of dictates the way we act. Is basically what they're trying to say. And with the capability of these avatars and these like even the internet itself and all this like these fake personas allow us to act out in ways that maybe are different or maybe are not truthful but maybe are more truthful. And so I think that they sort of tried to bring that to light by doing these performances. Let's see. Next question. mm, oh, that's easy. I think if I'm understanding the question correctly, it affects the authenticity of them, how real they are. And of course, if there's someone reenacting them, then there's still a lot to be said. There's still a lot to grasp, but it's just like, oh, okay, like I see what you're trying to say. Whereas when it's the participants are unaware, it's not like somebody's trying to say something. It's like something just is. It's not like, oh, well, this is my thoughts. They're like, no, let me show you a fact. Let me show you, and then, like because the reactions aren't fake. The reactions you're not planning them; they just are there, and so you're bringing them to the attention. That's still like an art because you're bringing this to someone's attention, but because it's real, it's much more. I think it's much more authentic. I think I might be running out of time, so I'm gonna try to wrap this up. So, the Ivo and Franco, their whole big thing. I think the whole thing they're trying to do is that they are trying to get people to experience art completely. And I'm like, in a full, like, bring the full circle in that they want um, people to see not only arts that maybe are unusual to them and maybe they wouldn't have seen before, but also try to bring all kind of art, like the things from hell.com and things that would have normally been tucked away. I think they'd make a lot of efforts to bring those out and to not just not try to bring all the art that's hidden out, but also just bring the point that there is art out there, and you have to, and it should be free. And then also, even more so, they try to say that you should take an art and you should consider art, and then you should also produce art, and you should not only make your own art from your own, uh, not only make original pieces, but also to take works that have inspired you and take works from others and remix them and to put your own spin, your own version on what you think they should be or what you think would be interesting about them. And yeah, I think that they try to really try to break down sort of sort of the idea of art as a commodity or art as an industry. Maybe not art as, but they try to break down the. I think I'm just like sinking every question I just go drop an inch or two. But yeah, they're trying to make art really in itself. They're trying to make it not for the artist, but for the art itself. I guess to wrap up everything I was just saying. Um, and then the last question, what is the meaning of flogging a dead horse? So flogging a dead horse, I think, means when you're trying to bring a point home, and you keep on trying to bring that point home, and maybe to a certain extent, you're actually harming that your intended message by repeating it so much. I think that's the general term, the general gist of the term. And I think that in this in the interview, and when Franco says that in this particular scenario, he's talking about what is real. And I think that he's sort of, I don't know if he intends to do this, or if he completely intended to do this, or if this is just what I interpreted. I believe that he takes the interviewer's insecurity about what is real and if he was real, and how she's trying to reaffirm it so much in the interview, how she's trying to see if it really is him, and of course it really is him, and eventually, even though he's assuring her of that, she's still digging for it, and eventually at one point it's almost like, oh yeah, it's real, and then you keep on trying to get, it's like, well, is it real? And eventually I think she sort of, even though this is Franco, I think eventually at some point she almost in a way she sort of brings up the question, like, like, um, why are you so unsure about it? Like, we like, no, we get it. He's real. Like, he's like, he's like, he's saying this, but she asks so much that she almost makes it her. She almost unvalidates it a little bit, and I think that there is something to be said about that as well. So that's what I thought. I'm not exactly sure if that's what he was trying to do, or if he was just simply trying to say, he's trying to critique on how people they need things to be real, or they're just fake, and people don't really take consideration that there's like gray area, and even then people throw things that are fake out, and maybe that Franco and Evo, I think, try to say that that's not necessarily a good thing to do. So yeah, this one is going a little bit long, but I'm going to try to cut it off now. So yeah, that's